Rob Domofsky, go ahead.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks for doing this. What chances do you give a player, any player, of going a full season without a positive test? And do you feel safe playing football right now?
Rob, I didn't hear the first part of your question.
What chance do you give yourself or any player of getting through a full season without a positive test? And then the second part was, do you feel safe playing football right now?
Oh, Rob, I think the first part is a hypothetical one. I'm just not going to touch that one. I think the protocols that we have in place here, are such that I think it gives us a really good chance. We've been obviously testing every day, and there's tracking devices, and just the rules of the facility are obviously a lot different this year than years past, and give us I think it gives us the best chance to get into the season and finish the season.
Matt Schneidman.
Aaron, Matt mentioned yesterday that he was considering like a quarantine backup, a guy that doesn't practice but just is in meetings, or possibly isolating you guys. What are your thoughts on something like that, just to protect the quarterback position in case one of you does get COVID?
Yeah, again, I don't know. That's not my decision. That's Matt's decision. Obviously this year presents different types of challenges than years past, and it's crazy to think of that those are the type of conversations that we have to have in order to play, but that's the reality we live in.
Mike Clemens.
Hi, Aaron. Was there a point, like when baseball's guidelines came out several weeks ago, and said no high fives, no chest bumps, no spitting? Did you say, how are we going to play football?
I didn't see those guidelines, Mike, so I didn't have those exact thoughts. But, obviously the league's trying to come back and make things as safe as possible for players. I think there's, obviously a lot of, accountability on the players about what you're doing outside the facility. And I think that's where the responsibility lies. It's with guys, making good decisions and monitoring themselves and doing the preventative things to help build your immune system the best you can, and then being smart about your interactions.
Mike Spofford.
Hey, Aaron, thanks for the time. Just wondering, what's the general vibe in the building right now? It's been a long time since all you guys were back together, but yet lots of changes, obviously, with the facility and other cautions and stuff.
Come on, Spot.
Mike, you want to repeat that?
Yeah, Aaron, I'm just wondering what the vibe is in the building with you guys all getting back together for the first time in a long time, but
said he misses
all the
locker.
changes and signage and rules and everything else that's just so different right now.
I can't hear anything if something's being asked.
Oh, you can't hear? Okay. I don't know why we can't hear Mike, so let's go to Lance Allen. Go ahead.
Hey, Aaron, can you hear me?
You can't hear him either. Aaron, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Sarah. I can't hear the last two.
Bill Huber, go ahead. Try you.
Hey, Aaron, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Bill.
Well, aren't I special? This may be a little bit repetitive with what Bobby asked you, but you're still the guy who votes, right? As far as the CBA stuff, so it's 29-3. I'm assuming you were among the 29?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that vote, Bill.
Okay. I guess just what's the feeling of again, all these protocols and everything, before you guys got here, did you feel really good about it? And
we know why you ain't getting to that vote.
I think we can pull this off.
I think so. I mean, there's been a lot of back and forth. I give J.C. Treader, our new PA president, a lot of credit for really leading a lot of the conversation about everything needed to be done and reaching out to guys about how guys felt like things could be as safe as possible, get in the building. And there was obviously a lot of back and forth, a lot of issues to be resolved, not just the safety issues, but the money issues and the training camp rules and preseason. And it was so multifaceted. I give our PA and JC a lot of credit for, trying to put together something that had the input of a lot of guys around the league.
Jason Wilde.
Hey, Aaron, thanks for doing this. I suppose I need to ask, can you hear me okay or no?
Yeah, Jason, I got you.
Okay. We had a conference call with Matt yesterday. I know this will come as a surprise to you, but he was asked about you and your future and Jordan and everything else. I have a two-part question for you. One, he said, and I quote, "I see him," meaning you, "here for a really long time." How do you, I'm not asking how he defines it, how would you define a really long time? And then, I know you're not a guy who's taken stuff for granted through this time, but with the possibility that you may not be back in 2021, are you going to take an approach of being more savoring of being around Flea and the guys in the equipment room or anything like that with the uncertainty that you wouldn't have felt had they not drafted a quarterback?
Well, I think it generally, as you get older, you do enjoy the little moments just a tad bit more, I think. And like I've said before, a lot of the relationships that are still here are with those guys. It's with the training room guys, the equipment staff, Adam and his staff. People who've been here a long time and probably be here long after my time is gone here. But that's where a lot of the memories. You start talking about things from the 2000s to 2010 era. It was 5 years, 6 years when I was here. There's just not that many people still around who can relate to some of the stories, and that's the way the business goes. It's a short-term deal, and guys like myself who are lucky enough to play a long time with the same team, it's those relationships that you savor and you appreciate. And I found a lot of joy in those friendships over the years. I do, I savor every moment, every season. I don't take any of it for granted. I don't know, what the future holds. I know I can control this year and my play and my approach and my attitude, and I'm enjoying being back with the guys. It's fun to see them. Different, obviously, circumstances. There's a lot of things that are strange compared to the last 15 years I've been here, but I'm really enjoying being back here with the guys and being back in meetings and workouts and just seeing the energy and the smiles and the laughs. It really really makes it fun.
Steve with the AP.
I'm just wondering if you're surprised by the number of people who have opted out so far, or are you expecting more opt-outs down the road? And just what was your own thought process? Was it something you had considered at all?
I did not consider it. I was always going to play. I respect, any person who decides to opt out. There's a lot of different circumstances around. I'm sure each individual case. I know Geronimo, I saw he recently opted out. I know he has a young child. It's just a different year, and I respect all those guys who decided to make that decision. Even Devin, we had a conversation before training camp started, and he talked to me before it kind of got public, and I just told him I respect his decision. I have a lot of appreciation for how difficult that must be to weigh the love of playing football with the safety of your family, and so I have a appreciation for that, and absolutely zero judgment.
Pete Doherty.
Hey, Aaron, with how important quarterbacks are in this league, are you taking, or is the team imposing any extra precautions with you and the other quarterbacks for limiting contact with teammates or with limiting contact with people even away from the building?
Yeah, not yet. I'm not sure what the conversations will be in the near future, but as of right now, no.
Mark Daniels.
Hi, Aaron. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for the time. NBA's gotten through a weekend in a bubble. Hockey's playing in a bubble. 32 NFL teams are kind of bubbled for the foreseeable month. Do you have any trepidation that once you start traveling, that you may not be able to finish what you start?
I think that's one of the unknowns there, Mark. I mean, I think there's a lot of unknowns around this, and at this point, all we can do is, try and educate guys and, try and be smart about, what you're doing outside the facility. There's some things out of our control, some things in our control. And I think there's a responsibility that goes with it, but there's some things that are really out of your control that it's hard to speculate at this point what's going to happen down the road. I know that, I feel comfortable being here and comfortable with the rules and protocols in place. It's tough to bubble, the kind of numbers that we have. And I think I think it's a good thing. There's a lot of accountability on this, responsibility. Again, there's some things that are out of your control, but there is a personal responsibility that goes along with it, and that's part of being a professional. And I think at the same time you just hope that there's not that kind of outlier thing happen to you or anybody that we really need to play on Sundays.
WBAY TV.
Hey, Aaron. I guess I should ask too. Can you hear me okay? It's Chris.
Yes, Chris.
First of all, four fingers, is that only an off-season thing? And then secondly, you mentioned in that interview with Kyle Brandt that you don't think you're going to have control over finishing your career in Green Bay. I'm curious if you're still sticking with that and you still believe that you will be gone from Green Bay maybe before you want to be.
Well, Chris, I mean, there's been a lot of hypothetical questions on here. I'm not always, a huge fan of guessing those things. But obviously, I've said that before. I think that if I retire on the team's, timeline, then all is well. But if they're looking to move on before I'm ready to be done playing, then there comes an impasse at that point. I can control, my play and my performance and my approach and my leadership. But at some point, there's other factors involved. That's what I said to you guys, on day one when we talked about this, and that's what I said to Kyle. So that's the facts to me at this point.
Aaron Nagler, go ahead.
You've mentioned, Aaron, a couple times now, accountability, leadership, what you can control. Last year, heading into the bye week, you talked about speaking to the team about what they do away from the facility. Obviously, very different circumstances now. We heard Brian yesterday talking about how he hoped the leaders on this team would kind of take up that mantle, and his words were peer pressure, but I think providing leadership is probably a better phrase. Do you feel extra pressure, responsibility, etc., to not only set an example, but have you or will you speak to the team about the importance of how they behave and what they do outside the facility?
Well, first, thanks for the sweatshirt. And to answer your question, I think we have been talking about this so much on Zoom meetings. Once we were able to get into the facility yesterday, there's been so much conversation around this issue. I don't think we need to beat on it too much more. But it just comes a personal responsibility about taking care of your teammates and enforce any other special things besides, hey, this is the accountability to the squad of thinking about who you surround yourself with and who you're interacting with and how you're taking care of your body and boosting your immune system and then also reporting any symptoms that you may be having. I think it's important. That's important as well. But look, man, we've been talking about this. This has been, just about every meeting. It's all over the facility, reminders. So it's definitely on our mind.
Stacey Dales with NFL Network.
Aaron, great to see you. Can you hear me?
It's a little low, yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to speak up. My question for you is, I guess, how much more seamless does the language of the offense feel for you this year as opposed to last year with that? And kind of where do you expect to make the biggest jumps offensively? Where do you foresee that happening?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about the jumps. It's so early. We've just done our first walkthrough, so there's a long way to go to see, what we have in the draft and the new players, the free agents, and kind of anybody who's making a jump in those early years. There's initial reactions to guys and kind of how they came back and the shape they're in, what they look like.
I'm so mad that
again we're a long way from
none of these Green Bay reporters
so I think there's
asked about Everson Griffin when Brian Gutekunst did the video conference.
The verbiage is definitely
Nobody asked the question.
Coming a little easier for me at this point than it was last year. It was a good off season of Zoom meetings for us, just kind of going through the installs and talking about what we like and what we want to take out and how we want to adjust things. I appreciate that about Matt. The working relationship that we have. There's a lot of great conversations.
Okay, him and Matt LaFleur
in there and Getsy and
they good.
I feel like we went through the entire playbook this off season, and we obviously had a lot of time.
A lot of detail.
We filled it up with a lot of football
detail
conversations
for Matt LaFleur.
Pay dividends come the season.
MK with WFRV.
Hi, Aaron. Can you hear me?
I can.
Cool. So 16 seasons. What was different this year in preparing mentally for this season with the pandemic?
Well, it was different from day one of the offseason program, usually in Green Bay. Not being able to be with the guys and start to build that camaraderie in the offseason during those workouts. That's a time in the past where we've done a lot of, fun dinners and trips to Milwaukee and Madison and, Brewer games and Bucks games and barbecues and just some fun hangout time. So, trying to find ways, during this, to look to build that chemistry is definitely one of our biggest challenges, not being able to kind of have the same type of gatherings as we've had in years past. So that's the biggest, probably the biggest change. But it gave me a lot of time out, out where I stay, with my workout group and my folks that I work with in the off season. So I feel really good about where I'm at physically, mentally. It was different the way we went through the playbook this off season.
We'll try Lance Allen again. Lance.
Aaron, can you hear me now?
Hey, all right.
I feel like that was a commercial at one point. Sorry about that. The question is, Aaron, I know you don't like hypotheticals, but the Raiders came out and said today there will be no fans to their ticket base. At best, Mark Murphy last week with the shareholders said there's going to be 12,000 people at most in the stadium. So how does that change?
So the Packers will have fans.
Barking out a play, trash talk, all this, and the energy of the stadium if there aren't a lot of fans, if any fans, for a game.
Yeah, I mean, that seems really strange to think about. It would feel very different. I would guess that would mean we'd use some live cadence for 16 games, which would mean more opportunities for some free plays possibly. It'll be strange to play, if that's the case, to play in some of these venues that over the years have been really, really loud. You're talking about the advantage that Seattle has with their crowd, New Orleans, Minnesota, Atlanta, Indy, some of these domes that are, really, really tough place to play. Kansas City with their incredible outdoor crowd. It really is going to be interesting to see how that affects, those road teams going into those environments, us as well, starting the season in Minnesota, how it affects the communication, if they're allowed to pump in noise or music or who knows. I mean, that's kind of one of those variables that'll be interesting. I can say personally, it'd be very, very strange and sad to not see a full Lambeau every Sunday at home. That's going to be a little bit weird.
Matt Schneidman, go ahead.
Aaron, even without Devin, is there, I guess, more optimism from your perspective about your wide receiver crew, your crew of pass catchers, just because guys like EQ, Marquez, Jace, Allen will be presumably healthy and know their prominent roles from the start of the season, whereas that wasn't really the case last season?
Well, again, I mean, I think it's too early to talk about prominence in roles. I think there's a lot to be figured out. There's obviously some new guys to the mix. EQ coming back from an injury and kind of got to see where he's at, mentally, physically, confidence-wise, running and in his physicality. Guys like Jake coming back and Allen coming back and Marquez, who've had some success. Obviously Allen made kind of a big splash last year. Marquez, had some really amazing games and some games where he didn't get a lot of looks. With Jake, so I think there's a lot of things to be determined. And again, like I said earlier, we're a long way from even a padded practice. So there's going to be a lot determined here in the next 6 weeks.
Garrett, WLUK.
Hi, Aaron. This is actually Josh Moser. But question is, just in this time of mindfulness and being able to look introspectively, Is there a lesson that you learned this offseason during the time of the coronavirus that you feel will give you an added perspective and make you a better football player on the field this year?
Somebody's got to mute themselves first. Hi, Josh. My trip to Peru involved climbing Mount Machu Picchu, which overlooks the ruins, and getting to walk through Machu Picchu as well was, no pun intended, was a top of the mountain type of experience. And the lessons I learned on that trip, I think will serve me not just this season, but the rest of my life. I'm not really going to get into those because they're very personal, but it was, definitely a lot of mindfulness and reflection around that trip. And again, this has been such a strange time. It's I think allowed all of us to reflect on things and what's most important to us in our lives. And a lot of us, have been working from home. A lot of you folks, I think, been probably working from home, and that's strange. And stresses relationships, and you learn about yourself and your partner and your family and your kids. And I think it's been a great time for all of us, to really reflect. It's been a difficult time for so many families across the country, dealing with loved ones, dealing with the sickness, possibly dying. So I think it's been, a trying time for all of us. And in those moments of adversity, I think there's some great life lessons to be learned.
We'll do a few more. Tom Silverstein.
Hey, Aaron, good to see you. I wasn't sure on that last question specifically. Have you been, if I heard right, have you been touched by anybody who has, I'm not asking,
all right. In a nutshell, they just talking about a lot about, the pandemic and how the Green Bay Packers and how he will deal with going through the season, knowing that the pandemic has been one of the biggest obstacles that sports has had to try to hurdle over. We see what the NBA bubble is doing. Baseball is going through some situations right now to where they gotta. But remember, baseball never did a 14-day quarantine before they started. They were still trying to figure out how players were going to get paid and how much they were going to get paid, how much a percentage of their salary they were going to get paid. But yeah, man, that's just basically it. They really just trying to see how Aaron Rodgers is going to mentally and physically maneuver through the season with the pandemic going on. But the biggest thing I've taken from what I've heard so far from this interview, this video conference, is that him and Matt LaFleur is on the same page. They know that the drama that seems to plague Aaron Rodgers before every season, I don't know, the media just always we got to put something bad out there about Aaron Rodgers. We got to create some drama before the season starts. So it's a good thing that those two have been in close contact and talking to each other to do what they're supposed to do, and that is bring the Lombardi back to Green Bay. I'm out.